Hello and welcome to another episode. I fixed my ear. I have hearing problems. I do. It's actually I have a hearing loss in my right ear. This is why I use this device. It's like that thing, bone induction. Yeah. Anyways, I used to wear one when I used to train in swimming. And it was really cool because it's like right here. It's not in the ear, so it's like really useful. Anyways, digressions aside, wanted to talk about the new Mars, well, I call it a new Mercury, but it's not really new Mercury, but the Mercury going into Capricorn for January 14 at 3 a.m. It's going to be exactly at 0 degrees, 0 minutes. So we'll just go straight into it. So here we go. First of all, I always forget that there is this thing. Okay, I hope it's in the right thickness. Yep, let's reset. Good. Alright. So Mercury will be heading into Capricorn right here. 0 degrees. It's going to be in conjunct to Mars, so a lot of expressiveness, maybe aggressiveness, and additional sort of just aggressiveness with communication. That's the simplest way I could say it. Any form of Mars sort of energy with Mercury, intellect might be a little seen as aggressive, not necessarily aggressive, but more like assertiveness, because it is a conjunction. So anything to do with Mercury is usually with intellect, communication, transmission of information, things to do with learning, of course, writing instruments usually, butterflies apparently. Okay, so pictures, money as well is included there, not the earning of money, but rather money as like a form of transaction, any sort of transaction, so associated with that. Intellect, of course, basic intellect, practical knowledge. Okay, so anything to do with that, any sort of communication related, gossiping might be part of this. People, might be getting into a lot of more gossiping, but it is in Capricorn, so that means it's going to be more about gossiping, like I guess within authority figures or the authority or high up there. Probably gossiping or information or communication about probably like, I would say something probably to do with the elderly. I'm not sure. That's more of a Saturn thing. But Capricorn is kind of not really like that. I'm going to go into Saturn here. Alright. So cautious communication. A little bit slow, a little bit more scrupulous, a little bit more prudent. Perfectionism might come through in terms of learning, in terms of how we express ourselves. Roads that are built probably are going to be built very slowly, or the projects might it might come off slow first. If there is a need to plan for something, to build something like roads, any sort of form of communication, it will be processed more practically. It'll be more, scrupulous. It will revolve around traditions, something that's economically practical, something that is reliable and structured and safe. But there also might be some issues with roads, like it might sort of kind of be roads might start to, certain places where it's cold might get a little bit colder, so roads might be not necessarily slippery, but it might feel cold, or communication itself might feel cold. People, the way they also assert, it's Mars is right in it's in an exaltation, it's in a rise in Capricorn, so it is right where it's supposed to be. It's not aggressive, but there is a certain calm assertiveness about it as well. Might be some ambition or over ambition towards how we express our emotions, particularly regarding anger, regarding anything aggressive, anything sort of that needs to be done, any sort of action that needs to be taken. Okay. And there might be fewer accidents than where there were in Sagittarius. So this time there will be less accidental, like, way of speaking. People might be a bit more cautious about what they want to say, and watch out for those in your chart. Unless, of course, you have it square, might be a challenge for you to kind of hone down your assertive communicational self, your ability to communicate. Maybe you want to slow down a little bit more. This is the time to slow things down even more. Of course, if it's too slow, then that means this is the time to kind of probably bring that out. Mars is telling us here to go, okay, it's time to probably express yourself a little bit more. It is going to be towards Mercury is going to be heading. It's faster moving planet, so that means it's going to be heading towards Mars faster, and eventually will probably surpass it. Unless there's a retrograde, there's always a retrograde. I think there's like 4 in a year, I believe, from what I remember. Okay. What else is there? So less accident, maybe flirtatiousness in a very sort of in the workplace, maybe flirtatiousness in a kind of very, authoritative way. Maybe people might start to feel that they need to be a little bit more grounded the way they flirt, because this is kind of Mars, Mercury. There's going to be more about communicational, sort of those things, expressions, right? Definitely a lot more tempered, okay, a lot more patience, fewer accidents, okay. But it is also it's more like verbal war, if anything, but it also kind of ties in with the ego, because Capricorn does rule the ego. If we looked at where this is just in Greenwich. So if this were like one place, it'll be a little easier, but this is generally in the world. But so you look at where Capricorn is, what house it's ruling in your chart, in your city where you are. You can go with your country as well, that's totally fine. But where it is in your chart, look for the transits. But if it is in Capricorn, that means that it's going to be, if it's ruled by Capricorn, and if Capricorn is in that cusp, like we're here in Greenwich in England, Capricorn rules the 3rd house, so therefore Saturn will rule this house. So it's about communication, which is now revealed through, in this case, the 2nd house here. But this is not about Greenwich, this is about the world. Okay. Let's see what else we can find here. Okay, we have square to echo. Okay, new opportunities. There might be some difficulties and arguments in terms of like things that are happening that are new, things that are... Oh, no, not echo, sorry, that's not EO. That's EO I'm talking about. Echo is like repetition or just copying, mimicking what others do, because you kind of lose your own sort of a sense of identity. I took some notes here for echo. So, repetition, difficulty with communication, falling on deaf ears, cover-ups. Okay, there might be issues with cover-ups, and people might be expected to reveal, or things might start to reveal themselves a little bit more specifically pertaining to authority. Because it is a square, it's going to be pertaining directly to wars, probably, because Echo is in Aries right now. 5 degrees Aries right here. Okay. Conjunct actually Heracles, so there might be a bit of a push, a strong-willed, maybe people might be seeing things like in the world where people are trying to really, really cover things up and hide things, or be passive about communication, or have superficial relationships. But the Mercury-Mars conjunction is kind of squaring that, so there might be a tendency for that to come out and reveal things that are like, well, this is not real, this is fake, this is totally a sham, right? Hidden romances, so imagined love, fake love, exaggerated love, infatuation, okay, those kind of stuff. Deceit, okay, might come through. So there might be a tendency for some people who are afraid of losing their identity or power to they might be like, okay, I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to, definitely might be a lot of stubbornness towards it, because it is in Aries still. But because it's in Aries, it's there might be also a tendency to be a little bit more flexible, because it is fire compared to the earth. So this is pertaining to hidden agendas or hidden falseness and fraudulence, particularly pertaining to authority. For those in authority, those above in the highest or whatever in ladders. It could be businesses, it could be companies, it could be what else could it be? Places where, let's go with this one. Mercury in the news, of course. Okay, there will be that. News about wars, the news about accidents, news about those kind of things. Transportation might be also affected. Things that are coming up, because we're already heading towards Pluto, towards Aquarius. We're headed towards the Aquarian age. So things are coming to the surface, definitely, for sure. Transportation will be affected. Schools will be affected. Public assembly rooms. Anything to do with transition. So sort of like interactions or transaction between people, like banks, legal affairs, libraries, even schools. Like I said, markets. Anything where there's a pair sort of thing, there's a communication, transmission going on between two things. Anywhere that happens, any form of transaction, transmission, communication, it will be affected. So people, the way they speak, people might start to see that a little bit more, and revealing, it's going to be revealed through the push towards, I wouldn't say necessarily it's pushed toward revelation, but if we are looking at where Saturn is, let's look at Saturn. Okay, maybe not. Definitely like a bit of a push more into that. Let's see where else Mercury is going to be. Going to be opposite of Astra and Vertex. So fated, there's a tendency for people to come across okay, this is kind of interesting, because that Vertex is showing that this is going to be fated. This is going to be something, as sort of a tendency that's going to happen, that it's going to be like, I don't know how to describe Vertex as, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go into Astra boy, just kidding. Astra, yeah, so, okay, so things with like the justice system, possibly rule of law, okay. So laws might be coming into play here that can balance things, okay? Because Astra is about moral values. Okay, rejection of standards outside your own, rejection of one's purity, beliefs, experience when important decisions, new info about serious issues that are revealed. So this is going to be, Astra is showing that there's going to be a revelation of that, particularly with communication, because right here we do have it in Gemini, right? Actually, no, it's not in Cancer. First degree, okay. But in retrograde, that means it's going to be continuously revealing sort of things that are probably familiar to us, things of the past, things of heritage, things of inheritance, things with DNA. So anything related to the past, DNA, ancestors, anything to do with the fourth house. So that also means like families, ancestral homes, homes themselves, houses, home, apartments, places we live in. What do you call them? Real estate, sort of like how maybe there might be restrictions and limitations, or restrictions towards how housing might come across. But vertex here, it's conjunct that, shows us that. I'm gonna fucking look up vertex because I feel like I don't have enough of that. No. Things that kind of become the way I understand vertex is apparently to use in synastry, but it might come across here. It's more like about soulmate stuff, but in this case, it's more like soul families might be involved here, karmic destinies, so transformation experiences, okay, blah blah blah, all those things. The way I see it is like on a general public level, like in the world, I would say it has a lot to do with the collective choices that we have to make. Okay, I'd like to go back to Astra. So with vertex in the last degrees of Gemini, it's going to continue. It's not going to continue. It's going to bring about things that we need to work on karmically as a collective, as humans, specifically pertaining to communication, but in terms of how that fits into the home, because Astra is going to be like our moral code. It's going to kind of make us question, like, what do we need to keep? What is right? What is just? What is it? What needs to be really? What needs to really happen? So that we go back to, right things in creating equilibrium. But in this case, because it's pertaining to the home, it's pertaining to, again, anything to do with things of the past, because it is in opposition to Capricorn. It means that there's going to be a lot of like preservation. There's a lot of regarding safety, regarding issues of the not only past but traditions as well. Both Capricorn and Cancer have a lot to do with traditions. So people might continue to be expressive about their own personal beliefs, what their own traditions, like specifically pertaining to anything tradition, anything that is conservative values, that kind of purity stuff. But we have to learn how to balance it. Otherwise, it will be in one direction, the other will be in one direction. One will be pertaining more towards emotions, one will be pertaining more towards authority. So one is going to be cold, one is going to be warm. So when you don't mix those two together, you don't have lukewarm, you have like oppositions. So it's not going to be, balance. So we need to achieve that balance by saying, okay, what is it that we need to personally, like I think in this case, communication, or what we know, our knowledge about our own specific personal traditions or personal things that are personal to us, things that are traditional, things of the past, and what do we need to know more about? What do we need to exactly figure out how to balance things so that it's not chaotic, it's not, right? And with Mars there's going to be that sort of, and if we don't address that, with Echo here, we have a T square here, okay, to Echo Heracles. Okay, so with Heracles conjuncting that, okay, it's pertaining to the not only courage and determination and willpower, it's like a Mars thing, but it's also apparently pertaining to the 12 negative qualities of all the zodiac. So it's about wholeness. In times of adversity, what do we choose, passion or anger? Like, how do we work with that urge to urge? I wrote it here. My definition of it is to urge to overcome things, adversity, basically. So we grow from adversity. In this case, growing from adversity of being copycats, not necessarily just copycats, but like even though we might have a difficulty with our communication, the way when we say things, it falls on deaf ears, or nobody listens to us, or we hide things, or we find that we have to be superficial. We have to understand the shadow behind that and figure out why are we being superficial? Why is it? And finding those and going through the whole 12 signs, in meaning like going through that process. This is the time to go through that process, initiate that. It's in Aries, but be careful of the Aries energy. It's not necessarily committed. So with this square to Mercury and Mars, it's always about the planning, and we need to be more steadfast about it. Figure out exactly why is it that sometimes we become superficial, we become fake. There's a reason behind that. Instead of judging ourselves and saying, I'm just copying things, I'm not really being myself, that's totally fine, because there's a reason for that. It's preservation of something. You don't want to reveal yourself because for fear of getting hurt, right? Again, Aries doesn't tend to, there's a tendency for Aries to have a burst of energy, and it's not necessarily like long-term oriented, but it is kind of tends to be in the present moment. So go with the flow, have fun with it, but at the same time, just make constant efforts. You have the square to Mercury Mars here, so that means you just got to keep going. And work with that sort of feeling of like tension. Okay. I'm actually planning to do a music meditation background for you guys with Mercury's combined Mars. Combine those two. I'm not sure what else is going to combine. I don't know. We'll see how it works. But we'll see. Yeah. In any case. Do we have here? Maybe just Mercury, actually. Let's think about it. Okay. So what else? Mercury has that square. Mercury has that opposition. What else does Mercury have here? Mercury... Oh, okay. Why is that pointing towards... Am I misreading that? That can't be. 3 degrees? 7 degrees? That can't be. Oh, because it's 7. Okay, well, yeah. To Chiron. There's an additional part here where Chiron is in Aries, so fear of loss of power, loss of freedom, or the wounding of freedom, wounding of not being able to be yourself, be your authentic self, be like just being in the moment and being childlike and being, just innocent and playful and just going for what you want and being assertive and willful. That kind of fear behind that might be what causes us to kind of stop. With Mars there in Capricorn, it kind of maybe feels like, or you might hesitate and be like, a little too cautious, a little bit too stubborn, a little bit too become probably cynical. So watch out for that energy, that feeling of being in that energy. That, because even though we might lose our freedom, it's not freedom that we lose, it's our perspective of that. What is freedom? Right? There's Mercury coming in here, so it's going to give us a bit more perspective into that, in that direction. And with Saturn in Pisces, and here, we can use that energy. It's going to be a sextile, actually. I can already tell right here. 4 degrees, so Mercury and Mars is going to be sextile to Saturn. It's actually still... actually, both are. So Mercury is going to be sextile Moon Saturn here. So a lot of control of emotions and kind of being a little bit more grounded in times of, especially when you're learning to kind of isolate, or not necessarily isolate, but find times and places in your life where you can reflect on these things and kind of figure out, it's not just about meditation, it's about just reflections. Pisces is a very reflective sign. Use your intuition, use your guidance, take the moment to actually pause it. This has been going on and 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 on. And this is another reminder, go into the moment, even if you have to use meditation as a tool, fine, do that. But be in the moment as often as possible as you can. Go with Eckhart Tolle, do the cold charts, look up Wim Hof method, do some yoga, go out into nature. Whatever it is that resonates with your body, the body specifically. Remember, it's not your body. This is not my body. This is a shell. So, and realize that the impermanence of the thoughts that we have about our own ego and our own identity. Oh, I've lost my freedom. I'm afraid to do that, so I can't speak up. Okay, these are all temporary stuff, right? What is it, that saying we've had, like, good things must come to an end? Well, bad things also must come to an end too. So impermanence, everything is impermanent. So that means either one is that. So this is why being in the present moment is, it's not about, oh, it's important, you have to do it. But if you want true peace, if you are already sick and tired of the past, if you're sick and tired of being like in this cycle of like delusion and then kind of like this suffering, poor me, victimhood, poor me, then it's time for that. Okay? Yeah, so emotional control, not necessarily control, emotional preservation, emotional mood control, like being able to kind of ground yourself. With this one also, we also have a lot of it, the moon Saturn there is a lot of conservatism, specifically probably with religious groups or any sort of like faith-based organizations. So still, you can use that energy towards that. Moon is in the last degrees right here of Aquarius. Sorry, I'm full. I can't think properly. So sort of authority figures, anything to do with governments, anything to do with the elderly. I don't know. If we looked into the moon rules like things like breweries, nurseries. I would say anything to do with places like as I look into this one, this is what happens when you have way too many notes. You have to scroll through everything. But I'm not in a hurry. If you are, so public places as well. Public places is going to be affected by that. It's going to be, okay, so news that pertain to what concerns the public regarding preservation when it comes to like the oceans, any sort of body of water. Of course, rivers are affected by that. Springs are affected by that. Seaports. Okay. Anything to do with bathing. So some places that are for bathing. I don't know. I include here sperm banks because it's about fertility centers, nursing home for sure, hospitals that more about with like the area of nursing, like nurses themselves. Might be affected by that one. So you might have this sort of your arms, this section of your arm. This is medical, but in the general collective sense, I would say it affects us medically, or we get affected by the arms area, the sight, our vision, hearing as well. But how that connects to, for men, cisgendered men and men, okay, just men, general. Cisgendered with men, it's the left eye, apparently. Stomach, digestion, canal, digestive juices, sympathetic system, nervous system, that ties, the nervous system here. So people might feel a bit nervous, or more like they might, because it's a sextile, they might feel okay with their nervous system, might feel a little bit more at ease, might be a little bit in control with their nervous system, especially with Saturn there, especially pertaining to things that we sense outside of ourselves. It is in Pisces, but at the same time, it's the skin, which is Saturn, but it's also magnetism, which is the need to touch and feel, with the moon there. So there might be a bit more emotional. It could go either way, depends, because it is in Pisces, it's a mutable sign. So authority figures might start to become a little bit much softer than before. I don't know, might be a little bit more open, at least emotionally flexible and open, unless Saturn is really strong here, let's take a look. If we look at Neptune, where's Neptune? Did I miss Neptune somewhere here? Oh, right there. Okay, it's in Pisces as well. So it's in, conjunct to Phaethon. Phaethon. I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay. Oh, recklessness, qualities of boldness, aggressiveness, losing out of control, havoc. Okay, it's like Icarus. Okay, goal chasing, like blind goal chasing, listening to instinct instead of logic or reason, challenging wisdom, and okay, refusing to follow wise instruction, guilt tripping, emotional manipulation, situation. Okay, got it. So basically, this one is just being able to go for it with Neptune there. So with Neptune is going to be ruling Saturn here, and eventually the moon. So that makes it a little bit more flexible. It gives more room to be more risk-taking, probably, but at the same time might head towards, like, it might go the other way, where people might just go for things like anything that they're addicted to. But because it is a conjunction, it's still a hard aspect. So that means that it's like, but that doesn't mean that people won't resolve the problems. It's really a personal choice. I'm just saying the energies are showing me that it's like there might be a tendency to just be a little too risque, take things that are too risky, and kind of there's no thought behind it. It's not, it's blind, right? And it is square to Venus here. Okay, that makes sense. That means anything to do with self-worth, luxury, pleasure, relationships, harmony. So just for the sake of harmony, people might just go for it without even thinking of the consequences. But because Neptune rules Saturn here, so the effect of Saturn here will be in, as it sextiles Mercury and Mars, is going to be a little bit softer. It's going to be a little bit more grounded. We can use that energy because it is a sextile. It's not necessarily it doesn't necessarily come out naturally. It comes out more through experiences and kind of just like, oh, okay, I need to use that energy. So it's like a resource thing. It's kind of like it's in your bag behind you. It's like, okay, now I got it. It's easily accessible. It's that energy. And with Mercury Mars, you have it also sextile. Okay, well in this case it's this placement here. It's sextile the MC midheaven. So I'm not going to go through that one. I totally forgot this one. We have Ixion. All 4 planets right here, Ixion and Pholos. So people's decision-making skills in terms of finding our bliss is right here. You can see right here, up here, conjunction right here. All four bodies are in conjunction right here. So a lot of decision-making regarding what choices we need to make so that it doesn't hurt society, so that it doesn't hurt anyone, it doesn't break any actual rules that are not necessarily need to be broken, and making sure that it doesn't have dire consequences, not so much for society but for ourselves. It has to start within first. But yeah, pertaining directly to authority figures, the only square it has is with Neptune right here. But it also does square Phaethon right here. Phaethon, I don't know how to pronounce that. So again, a lot of risk-taking issues, a lot of risk-taking potential that might happen because it will be square. At least Mercury will be square. So to Neptune and Phaethon. So that means that it's going to be, yeah, watch what you say. Let's watch what we say. Let's watch what we believe in. Sort of, especially with Pisces there's a tendency to be gullible and also kind of also indecisive. Sometimes we might kind of hesitate and kind of hide in the background and be like, okay, we might get into things that are kind of, we think this is real, but it's not. We might believe that it's grounded when it's not, right? So the Mercury there is showing us that it's like, take your time before you say something. Make the right decision. That's Pholos right there. Before you say something. Find what it is more internally. Is this kind of the information that I really love to do? Is this a kind of, what I really want? But on the more mundane level, literally mundane astrology, Ixion rules the weather in general, not necessarily like earthquakes, but in general, like the weather, the clouds. Ixion in news and about aggressive weather patterns, possibly because Mars is there, or little things that cause big storms. Big, has a small effect but has bigger consequences because you have Pholos is there as well. So in news, it might come towards, like it might show up in the news. In this regard, this thing that's coming up in the news will come through the news right here at Mercury, but it might be things like we might come across like fake news. Watch out for those. Watch out for fake news and be like, because if it's nothing to do really with you, the key here is to each of us working on ourselves and growing and elevating so that it spreads and so that way negativity doesn't spread. Negativity is something you work on in yourself. It's not something you infect others with. That's the way, at least how I learned it. It's, that's how you work with negativity. You don't suppress it, but you don't spread it either. So pertaining directly to Mercury, yeah, we still have this one. I want to see this other one here. Galactic Center. Things are starting to be revealed. There's going to be, not things are starting to be, but they are going to be revealed a lot more. You have the Galactic Center right here in 27 degrees. It is conjunct Mercury, so things are definitely going to be like fucking revealed. With that placement is actually square Super Galactic Center and the Great Attractor definitely being revealed. Like, it might look a little chaotic because one is revealing real relations, or what's behind relationships, what's behind how we work with harmony and all that stuff. That is very Libra. So what is real peace and all that stuff versus what is the authority figures in governments are either hiding or not hiding. So this might be the case here. But that's on its own. You don't really need to invest in that, especially if it's negative, unless it's, it's natural. When you're in the present moment, it doesn't mean you are not acting on anything. It just means you don't force anything. It's not from the ego. It's not from this fear. It's not the feeling of being pressured or bullied. It's ease, light, and joy, right? So things will come about in their own time when we also listen and we take the right actions when we need to. Time to contemplate on that right here, right? Is there anything else here? Any other oppositions? No, couldn't find anything else. So yeah, so unless you have asteroid 1 degrees, 28 vertex. Okay, vertex is going to be in opposition to galactic center. Right here. Oh, right here. 28 degrees, right? 28 degrees right here. In Sagittarius. And up here we had vertex right here, 29 degrees. I believe it's 29, 28 degrees in Gemini. So, things when it comes to moral values, personal moral values, and things that we have to decide on so that we don't create more karma. And karma has nothing to do with I'm being punished. Karma is the choices we make so that we don't infect other people with the lower vibrations. We need to elevate that. Okay. So again, even when I do things, I still swear, but I don't do it out of malice, or at least I'm becoming more and more conscious about it when I say it, how I say it. Yeah. There is that tendency, there is that feeling that I get that it's sometimes it's like, ugh. Okay, that feels a little bit resentful, so I'm not going to do that. But to be honest, there's a difference between, like my dad used to say, there's a difference between being emphatic and angry. Right? Emphatic, just expressing what you personally want, but you also be careful about the energy. Remember, the universe doesn't communicate through words, and mantras don't really do that. It's our intentions, it's our energy. What's going on there is the one that the universe will respond to. So if we surround ourselves with negativity, we're going to get that. Yes, that includes myself. So as I put this coolant thingy, I don't know if you guys are into this vapor rub. I love this stuff. So grateful that these are being made. So, in any case, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do watch out for the meditation video I'm going to post after this one. Could be the next day, could be right on the next day. We'll see. But yeah, it's pertaining directly to just like Mercury. We'll see what. I think I'll use the note for Mercury. Forgot what that was. Was it F? E? There's an assigned note for E. It's E. Okay. So I'll do that. I'll figure out what I can from there, and then combine it with Capricorn. So yay! This will be our meditative stuff. I really hope that helps. But thank you so much for watching again. I'll see you guys later. If you have any questions, do so in the comments below. Positive, negative, doesn't matter. I'm not going to be affected by it, and I'm not going to listen to anything that's negative. And even if it's uplifting, it's okay. But it's still, the goal is not to be in either direction. It's to be more objective, more balanced, and more connected. And that's only through the stillness. So, but hopefully the things I've been posting when it comes to the music stuff and meditation have been helping you to kind of ground yourself. Real stillness comes from just being in stillness, regardless of anything outside and externally. Right? So being in nature is one of those things. You can do what I do, that's totally fine if you don't. But anyways, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching as I close this. Have a good